Hi, everyone. I'm Vladimir Dutip. We are watching all the news happening in the United States and around the world. Check out these live feeds coming into the CBS News Broadcast Center. If it's coming in to one of our stations, it's coming to you right here. This is CBS News 24/7. Hurricane Ernesto is barreling towards Bermuda, bringing potentially life-threatening floods and dangerous winds. We'll go there as preparations are underway. It's the economy, stupid. Remember that? Well, both former President Trump and Vice President Kamala Harris are making it the top issue on the campaign trail as they eye the next battleground state. And negotiators are holding ceasefire talks, trying to reach a deal in Gaza in hopes of fending off an all-out war in the region. We've got the very latest on the efforts. But let's begin this morning with the conditions in Bermuda, which are expected to deteriorate today as Hurricane Ernesto barrels towards the North Atlantic island. The storm has already left hundreds of thousands of people in Puerto Rico without electricity as crews work to restore power. CBS News national correspondent Dave Malkoff is following the latest on Ernesto out of Bermuda. Dave, good morning.
Hi there, Vlad. The strong surf is only one indicator that Hurricane Ernesto is on its way. Directly to the south is the path that it will take from Puerto Rico coming up here. We will get tropical storm force winds and then hurricane force winds after that through the weekend. Let me just kind of take you around here. We are on the southern portion of the main island in Bermuda. That's several islands, but this is the main one that has the airport that will shut down later today. The cruise ships have already up and gone out of here, and up here at some of the hotels, they are closing up shop. They are putting up the storm shelters, and people are going to the grocery stores. But after just a few hours from now, it's going to be the end of preparation time because those tropical storm force winds will start coming in. We also have a possibility of 2 feet of storm surge, 1 foot of rainwater, and that's going to be throughout maybe the weekend. We don't know how long that will last because it depends on how fast this storm is going to come over us, or if it's going to hover. Over in Puerto Rico, it was going about 16 miles an hour. So it was hovering over them for a while, but as you can see, the plywood is up. And we're hoping for the best, Vlad, here in Bermuda. Back to you.
All right, Dave, thanks very much. Let's bring in CBS News Philadelphia meteorologist Tammy Sousa with the first look at the national forecast this Friday. Tammy.
Yeah, you know what? Let's talk right away about what's going on with the hurricane. In fact, I'm going to go ahead and give you an idea as far as the hemisphere, where we are with this particular storm. You can see it out here. It is in the Atlantic. It is moving northward at this point. Will not really affect the U.S. as far as that rain or storm surge, but we are going to have some very rough surf with this thing. Let's go ahead and take a look at where it is right now on the map. It is approaching Bermuda, and it should move in there by later tonight. So we are watching this very strong Category 2 storm as it moves northward right now toward Bermuda. Again, we are going to be looking at everything on the plate with this, and unfortunately, Bermuda is in the dirty side. That's what I call the dirty side of this particular storm. So with these winds right now that are going at about 85 to 100 miles an hour, it just depends on what sector you're in with the storm, we're watching this move northward. Again, here's Bermuda, here's the storm to the south. This is the forecast path. It would remain very close to or in the eye wall the entire time, which is the most dangerous thing. And you notice everything pushing into Bermuda from this direction. That's why we call it the dirty side. It should be out of the area by late Saturday and into Sunday, and then they can start to actually get back to normal. But again, they are directly in the path of this storm. There you go, Category 2. Then it starts to diminish before moving out into the Atlantic. And then we start to feel these huge waves coming in to the East Coast. We'll talk more about all of this and what you can expect for your beach day this weekend when I come back in a few minutes. Vlad?
All right, looking forward to that, Tammy. Thank you very much. Politics now. We're learning more about Vice President Kamala Harris's economic agenda should she win November's presidential election. Today, the VP will outline that plan at a campaign stop in North Carolina. So let us bring in CBS News senior White House correspondent Weijia Jiang. So, Weijia, we're getting an idea of what the vice president is proposing. What more can you tell us?
Great to see you, Vlad. Well, she has a lot of new ideas that she is rolling out, some of which we already have the details about. She wants to call for the first ever federal ban on price gouging groceries and food, especially when it comes to the meat industry. You can see here she is suggesting a couple different ideas for housing, including a $25,000 down payment for first-time homeowners. She wants to expand the child tax credit, including $6,000 for newborns, as well as an earned income tax credit for lower income families. And so it's important to note, Vlad, though, that these are all just policy proposals and would require Congress to get on board. And it's a lot of money that we're talking about, right? And she hasn't exactly answered where the money for all of this would come from. But it does expand a little bit on what we have already seen from the Biden-Harris administration, which is to focus more on the social infrastructure when it comes to things like paid family and medical leave, when it comes to extra tax credits for the middle class. So that's really what she will continue to focus on during her speech today, which, by the way, is her first policy speech since she became the Democratic nominee.
Which a lot of people, voters, have been clamoring for, policy ideas should she be elected, which is, you know, also, as you know, former President Trump and J.D. Vance have been hitting Harris on the fact that she has not done those press interviews. I know we've been asking, other members of the press have been asking, when do we expect that the campaign will address that issue and that the vice president will sit down for an interview?
Well, the campaign and her team here at the White House point out that she has done several interviews since becoming vice president. Of course, that's very different now that she is the presidential nominee. And she herself said that she has asked her team to schedule an interview for sometime before the end of this month, being August. So I'm not quite sure who might land that, hopefully CBS. But it seems that, you know, they are at least having the conversation about her sitting down. But I will say that she has started to take questions from reporters in a more spontaneous way. She's been traveling a lot, obviously, so several times now on the tarmac she has taken questions. And, you know, she wants to make the point that she's not shy about it. And her team says she's just been really busy campaigning.
All right, we'll wait to see what happens there on that front. Thank you so much. As always, we appreciate you.
Sure.
All right, let's talk about former President Donald Trump, who spoke to reporters. He did this at his golf club yesterday. He was expected to speak about the economy, but he spent much of the time attacking the vice president over immigration and energy policies and showcasing cereal. Watch.
I think I'm entitled to personal attacks. I don't have a lot of respect for her. I don't have a lot of respect for her intelligence, and I think she'll be a terrible president. And I think it's very important that we win. And whether the personal attacks are good, bad, I mean, she certainly attacks me personally. She actually called me weird.
So you see what I was talking about? He was flanked by grocery items to demonstrate inflation under the Biden administration. He's now coined the term Kamalanomics. Kamalanomics, to take jabs at the vice president's economic policies. CBS News campaign reporter Jake Rosen was at that, I'm going to say news conference in air quotes, Jake, because it really wasn't a news conference. It was nearly an hour into his appearance before the former president actually spoke about prices at all. You had reported that his team has tried to focus the former president on going after Kamala Harris and Governor Walz on their policies, going after or at least highlighting the achievements such as they exist from his administration. And instead, he continued to level personal attacks, in fact, saying that it was his right to do so.
Yeah, and we saw 2 days in a row this week of Donald Trump trying to focus on an economic message. We saw him in Asheville, North Carolina, and then in Bedminster yesterday, where I was along with our CBS team. The problem with kind of what they've been trying to do in terms of this is obviously you see a table full of groceries, but when you kind of don't talk about that or pivot away from that economic message, which is a easy one to make if you look at just the, quite frankly, the price of goods, the price of rent across the country. And while, you know, the inflation report was positive for the Biden-Harris administration, it really, some of those other deeper numbers in that report really show that there is still a very heavy effect of inflation on the average consumer. However, Donald Trump, in both of those events, kind of targeted Kamala Harris and made it really more about his personal issues with her and her campaign than it really was about the economy or prices, and specifically what he would do to take those prices down if he wins again in November.
You know, the other thing that's sort of interesting, Jake, is he's sort of reshuffling his team. What are you hearing about that? He's brought in Corey Lewandowski, some of the greatest hits from back in 2016, but the environment is very different today than it was back in 2016. Even the former president himself is different in that he isn't campaigning to the same level of intensity that he did back in 2016 when he was on the road constantly. Now he seems content to just do these press conferences from Mar-a-Lago or from Bedminster.
Right, and how it was put to us yesterday by the campaign was all hands on deck. We saw people who flew from all around the country to be there yesterday in Bedminster with the former president. We saw this hire of Corey Lewandowski. Tim Murtaugh is another person who was involved in the 2016 and 2020 campaign efforts who was brought back in, along with some other people who worked for a super PAC that worked for former President Trump. So I think it's a consolidation of the entities, financial and otherwise, that have kind of been in the Trump orbit, but it's also people who have been closest to Trump since he first took office, and this is kind of what we saw him do at parts in the summer going into 2020's election, and also kind of what we saw in 2016 as well. Consolidating that circle, but at the same time, bringing in people who are not part of the original campaign might create some conflict and friction. We'll see as kind of the next couple weeks play out. And I would note one thing for you, Vlad. As these economic messages have kind of come, and as these campaign shakeups and campaign additions have come, Kamala Harris will be right back in the spotlight next week for 4 days, and we'll see how Donald Trump handles that.
And CBS News will be there. Jake Rosen, I know you will as well. Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
All right, 2 doctors, an assistant, and a so-called ketamine queen have been charged in the death of Friends star Matthew Perry. We're going to bring you the details about the months-long investigation. You're streaming CBS News 24/7. Negotiators are expected to meet again in Qatar today to try and secure a ceasefire between Israel and Hamas. This comes, look at these images coming into us. The war in Gaza continues with Israeli forces ordering new evacuations in parts of the enclave that had been previously designated civilian safe zones. And in the West Bank, Israeli settlers attack a village in the region, killing at least 1 person. Jenny Hill, with our partners at the BBC, joins us live now from Tel Aviv. So, Jenny, what are you hearing about the state of negotiations to try and secure that ceasefire?
Well, talks in Doha have now closed, and we've just had a joint statement from the parties involved. Now, look, this isn't a ceasefire and hostage return deal agreed, but the statement is extremely positive. They say the talks were serious, constructive, and conducted in a positive atmosphere. They say that points of agreement were achieved over the last week. Gaps have closed between the parties, and that technical teams will keep working on the proposals, which are loosely based on what Joe Biden had put forward as a deal back in May. And senior officials from the governments of the parties concerned will meet again in Cairo before the end of next week, hoping to reach an agreement on the terms agreed on today. So look, it's not quite a deal, but this is very, very positive wording coming out of Doha. It builds, I think, on what we'd heard from US and UK officials over the last 24 hours who said that it was looking very promising. Israeli officials meeting the UK foreign minister had reportedly said that they hoped they were on the cusp of a deal. We also hear that Antony Blinken, Secretary of State for the US, is on his way to the region this weekend and may well meet with the Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu as early as Monday. So there's certainly movement going on.
And this will be now one of several trips that the secretary has taken to the region and to try and secure the ceasefire. But as you know, Jenny, there's been an attack in the West Bank. What can you tell us about that?
Yeah, this happened overnight in a place called Jeet in the north of the occupied West Bank. People living there have told the BBC that after dark, a number of settlers descended on the area carrying rocks, some of them armed. They set fire to cars and houses. One young man was shot and killed. His funeral has already taken place. We're told that tensions are very high in the area. The Israeli authorities have acknowledged what happened. They say that one arrest was made. But, you know, human rights organizations here in Israel say these kind of attacks are carried out with impunity, that arrests are rare, prosecutions even more so. And there has been a surge in these kind of attacks in the occupied West Bank since the war in Gaza began, with the UN reporting well over 1,000 such attacks, saying that around 10 Palestinians have been killed by settlers in that period. It is, of course, one of the illustrations of just how high tensions are running, not just here, but across the Middle East. And it's one of the reasons those negotiators in Doha are felt to be under so much pressure. It's widely acknowledged that not only is this all about trying to bring the war in Gaza to an end, to end the humanitarian suffering that's going on there, but to also prevent the conflict in Gaza from spilling over into a much wider regional conflict.
All right, Jenny Hill from our partners at the BBC. Jenny, thank you so much for your reporting. We appreciate it. Okay, we first told you about the people charged in Matthew Perry's death yesterday right here on CBS News 24/7. In fact, the news was breaking as we were coming on the air with you. Now we are learning more about the 5 suspects charged in the ketamine overdose death of the Friend star. Federal prosecutors announced the charges against 2 doctors, an assistant, and a woman known as Hollywood's ketamine queen. At a news conference yesterday, they are accused of funneling the drugs that killed Perry nearly a year ago. CBS News correspondent Adam Yamaguchi is in Los Angeles now and joins me to talk about this. So Adam, I saw your reporting yesterday night and early this morning. Explain to our viewers what we've learned about the inner workings of what the prosecutors are calling this broad underground criminal network.
Yes, Vlad, thanks. Great to join you. So I think this particular case helps to expose how that broad criminal underground network works. Let me walk you through a little bit of the timeline because I think it'll be very illustrative. So there are many legal ketamine clinics, such as the one that Matthew Perry first visited. He was going under supervision, under doctor's watch, was undergoing ketamine therapy to treat his depression. Now, at one point, he had determined that he wanted higher dosages, and the clinicians there declined to do that. And so it was then that his assistant found the black market underground suppliers. And they found one of the doctors who was charged yesterday, and he was able to procure 20 vials of this ketamine for $55,000 in cash. Now that, in spite of the fact that each vial would only cost the doctor about $12. So you have these massive, massive profit margins that help to create and grow this underground network. He then found another clinician, or rather another dealer, alleged dealer, known as the ketamine queen, who then supplied another 50 vials for $11,000. And she was charged, and when her stash house, so-called stash house, was raided, she was found to have been operating essentially what authorities call a drug emporium. Not only ketamine, but all manner of other drugs.
Adam, I find this story incredibly sad. And it's not just because Matthew Perry was beloved by millions of people all over the world for his portrayal of Chandler on the hit show Friends, but just as a human being, to have medical professionals, doctors, whose oath requires them to save lives, joke or use derogatory language in the care of a patient. Can you just take our viewers really quickly through some of the details of your reporting, the text messages that the prosecutor highlighted between those doctors, and how his assistant played a role in all of this?
Sure. So everyone involved in this case, everyone charged in this case, knew full well what harm, what damage they were bringing to Matthew Perry, but all in the interest of their wallets. They were part of this scheme. One of the dealers one of the doctors used his license as a medical doctor to illegally obtain. He fraudulently obtained this drug. I think one of the challenges here is that because ketamine is an approved drug, there is plenty of it out there. And that's where folks like Dr. P, the physician who obtained the drug for Matthew Perry, as well as the ketamine clean, were able to tap into a very ready supply. There's a big demand for this drug, and so that is essentially kind of what fueled Matthew Perry's further addiction.
Adam Yamaguchi reporting for us in Los Angeles. Adam, thank you very much. Okay, now to this. The Secret Service approved a new security plan for former President Trump's outdoor rallies in the wake of that assassination attempt. And it includes something usually exclusive to sitting presidents and vice presidents. We're going to tell you about it. You're streaming CBS News 24/7. Here's a look at some of the top stories we're following. An escaped killer and the woman police say helped him when he was on the run are now facing felony charges. Ramon Alston is back in custody after slipping away from corrections officers on Tuesday. Police found them hiding out in this Charlotte hotel. Alston is currently serving life for the drive-by shooting of a 1-year-old on Christmas Day back in 2015. A new California lawsuit claims hackers stole the personal information from the background check company National Public Data. The hack in April left millions of Social Security numbers at risk. The lawsuit accuses the company of not properly protecting the data. NPD has not commented on the leak. A second case of Mpox has been reported outside of Africa. Pakistan's health ministry says the patient just came in from a Middle Eastern country. Another person is infected in Sweden, and officials are warning the new variant may be easier to spread than previous versions. Earlier in the week, the World Health Organization declared the national outbreak a global health emergency. Okay, returning to our top story now, Hurricane Ernesto left behind a mess in Puerto Rico where hundreds of thousands remain in the dark after power lines were knocked down by the storm. And now it's barreling towards Bermuda. Folks, this is expected to threaten flooding, strong winds, and people there are in serious risk of danger. CBS News correspondent Manuel Bojorquez is in Puerto Rico. Manny, you've been tracking this hurricane all throughout the week. Talk to me about the situation there. Talk to me about the power. Has any progress been made? And what are people telling you about how frustrated they are? Because this is not the first time that Puerto Rico obviously has been hit by a hurricane, but we're increasingly seeing these failures in public infrastructure on the island.
That's right. They're hoping that 7 years after Hurricane Maria showed how weak the grid is, that there would be more improvements. So this morning, I just checked the website for Luma, which is the utility here on the island, and the number of power outages is hovering around 250,000 customers or so, give and take. So that is a significant improvement from yesterday, where we started the day at 480,000 customers without power, about a third of the island. Still, for the people who 48 hours after the storm came here do not have power yet, and not only is it really uncomfortable because it's so warm, hot, humid, sunny out today, but a lot of people are trying to run businesses on generators or have elderly parents at home who have life-sustaining devices that have to be powered. They're using generators all this time if they have to, but also keeping an eye on a local hospital nearby in case they have to get people over there while these power outages persist.
All right, Manny, thanks so much. We appreciate you. Thanks so much for that reporting. And let us know how people are doing. We really want to know. Thanks so much. All right, let's bring in CBS News Philadelphia meteorologist Tammy Sousa with a look at the national forecast. Tammy, over to you.
All right, well, here is the hurricane. It is a strong Category 2. It's 110 miles an hour. Those are the winds. If it hits 111, it becomes a Category 3, which is a major hurricane. It's moving off to the north and northeast. It's about 255 miles south-southwest of Bermuda right now, and it is going to cross that area late tonight and into tomorrow. Here is the track. It looks like it will either go directly over or just to the west, and that would be the worst-case scenario, keeping the island in the eye wall. Also keeping it in that area where they have the heaviest rain, the highest surge, and the most dangerous winds. Now, this is going to move out into the North Atlantic after it crosses Bermuda, but we're not done with it yet. No, we're going to have very high surf, swells that could be 10 to 15 feet approaching some of the shoreline, and we're going to have dangerous rip currents. This is going to start up on Saturday and linger all the way through Monday. So anybody that has beach plans, please be aware of that. Follow what the lifeguards say, or maybe just stay on the sand. It's going to rain, too, so maybe not the most pleasant of conditions. A place that needs the rain right now, extreme heat warnings in the Southwest, now especially Texas. Take a look at this. The highs today are going to be in the triple digits. Those feels like temperatures in some places. Look at Dallas. It'll feel like 110. We're going to be feeling like 108 in Houston. And this heat bubble is going to be with this area for the next several days. So dangerous heat there, and that's slowly going to break down and work its way off to the east. But right now, temperatures to the east are fairly comfortable. Let's talk about what's going on with the severe threat, because there is one in the central part of the country coming out of the plains, making its way into Arkansas, the Tennessee Valley, and swirling right back up into the Great Lakes. We have a threat of severe weather today. That could include damaging winds, also some very heavy rain. Now, that threat actually moves slightly eastward, so it's going to encompass the parts of the northeast down into the Tennessee Valley and parts of the Midwest for tomorrow. And by the time we get into Sunday, this is when we're going to be watching not only that high surf from Ernesto coming into the East Coast, but also we're going to be watching very heavy rain and some strong storms. There is a flooding risk all up and down the East Coast. So again, if you're going to the beach, may not be the nicest of beach days on Saturday or Sunday. Vlad, back to you.
All right, Tammy, thanks so much. We appreciate it. Okay, so in the wake of last month's assassination attempt of former President Trump, there you see those images, the Secret Service has approved this new plan to allow bulletproof glass to shield former President Trump during his outdoor rallies. Now, the shields are already in use for sitting presidents and vice presidents, but until now, they had not been deployed for candidates. CBS News congressional correspondent Scott MacFarlane is joining me now to talk about this. So, Scott, you were there on that horrific day during that attempted assassination of the former president. What are you learning now about this new security plan?
This bulletproof paneling that would surround the podium or the stage at future Trump events is an indication of two things: that there's obviously an ongoing threat to anybody who's a Secret Service protectee at this time of toxic politics and politically violent rhetoric, but also that there are so many unanswered questions still about the vulnerabilities that led to the first shooting. There are all these investigations, Vlad, that are underway but have not yet been completed, so they haven't gotten their hands around exactly what went wrong and how best to protect or prevent it in the future. So this is an intermediate step to put up bulletproof paneling around the former president if and when he has future outdoor events. And he's been clear he wants to have more outdoor events, potentially back there in Butler, Pennsylvania, between now and November. Vlad, it just underscores there's so much more to find out, and something has to be done protectively in the meantime.
All right, Scott, let me ask you about something else. Some reporting that a local sniper may have been responsible for saving lives at that Pennsylvania rally back in July. Break it down for me.
One of the investigations underway is from a newly formed U.S. House task force, a bipartisan panel doing its own probe. One of the members of that panel, Louisiana Republican Clay Higgins, released what he characterizes as an interim report with some of the initial findings from him and some of his fellow task force members. In his report, he says a ninth shot was fired. After the 8 shots by the gunman, a ninth shot was fired and stopped or slowed the gunman. And his argument is that he found that ninth shot was fired by a Butler County, Pennsylvania sniper, not the Secret Service sniper, so that it was local police who first were able to fire and stop the gunman. The 10th shot would be from the Secret Service sniper, ultimately killed the gunman. Mr. Higgins, the congressman, has also had a series of other findings in his report questioning some of how the FBI has gone about its investigation, which is still ongoing, but largely that local police were critical to this response. And some Republicans have been concerned the Secret Service is putting blame on local police when they should be accepting it themselves.
Remarkable reporting. Scott MacFarlane for us from Washington. Thank you, Scott. Appreciate it. Okay, we're looking at some of the stories from our stations this morning. A big story in New York City involves the ongoing criminal investigation You're going to want to hear about this. CBS News New York reporter Elijah Westbrook will break it down for us.
Well, good morning. Right now, we're standing just outside City Hall this hour, where we have recently learned about a round of subpoenas that have been issued towards Mayor Eric Adams here in New York City. The details surrounding the subpoenas remain a bit unclear, but we are able to confirm that they have to do with travel dating back to 2021 with the mayor and some of his aides. Again, the details surrounding this is still a bit unclear. Sources close to this case are telling us that it could tie into the FBI raid you may remember we reported on back in November involving Mayor Adams' campaign aide. Her name was Brianna Suggs. This was over in Brooklyn. So, of course, we're going to continue to closely follow this case and put together any pieces that may come our way in our reporting. That's the latest at this time. From Lower Manhattan, Elijah Westbrook, CBS News, New York.
All right, Elijah, thank you very much. We're just days away from the start of the Democratic National Convention. We're going to go to Chicago next for a look at the security measures getting underway and what you can expect to see. You're streaming CBS News 24/7. The Democratic National Convention kicks off Monday in Chicago. Officials there are ramping up security ahead of the event. Multiple security perimeters have been established outside of the United Center. Restrictions begin to go into place later this evening. CBS News Chicago reporter Asal Razaya joins me now to talk about it. So, Asal, what can attendees expect around the event, and are officials prepared, even for members of the press? Because I know it's always sort of a circus to get into the venue, even if you're credentialed.
Yeah, Vlad, good morning to you. Well, I'll tell you right now that a lot has changed here surrounding the United Center in Chicago over the past 24 hours. And I can show you really better than I can tell you. Take a look here. We're seeing snow plows in place already and a lot of metal fencing, barricades, concrete, and fences around this entire area. And just to give you a perspective, we're only one intersection away from the United Center, and the security perimeter continues to get tighter and tighter. Vlad, really, residents in this area are impacted the most right now, and so is traffic. We're being met with a lot of frustrated drivers this morning as a security perimeter has began to go up overnight, and we know tomorrow night is when this perimeter will continue to grow around the entire UC here. A lot of cars having to turn around here this morning. Overnight, these snowplows have really moved in, and we've really watched things amp up here around the United Center. We know the traffic restrictions are starting to go in place. Really, as early as 4 o'clock this morning, we saw streets and sanitation crews bringing in even more barricades, putting even more fencing into place. Now, we know inside the United Center, the stage is set ready for the Democratic National Convention that kicks off on Monday, as you mentioned, a big stage in the middle, and we know big speeches and the entertainment will be happening inside. Delegates from around the country will be sitting in those seats where they'll officially determine the Democratic Party's ticket. President Biden is expected to address delegates inside of the United Center on Monday. We know Chicago Mayor Brandon Johnson also planning to speak here on Monday. Our crews were inside of the United Center last night, where we saw that big unveiling of the stage, something that's been highly anticipated. And you mentioned press, Vlad. A lot of news crews have started to come around the United Center. We know a lot of press has been inside setting up makeshift studios, getting prepared to broadcast from inside of the United Center. Preparations have been ongoing and really leading up to this upcoming week for months now. That includes law enforcement, Secret Service, local officials, and local politicians and law enforcement as well. We've really heard residents in this area say they're excited that the Democratic National Convention is coming to their neighborhood here in Chicago, but also just anticipating a lot of security being ramped up as we inch closer to Monday.
All right, so a thorough breakdown for us. Thank you very much. And speaking of press, just a reminder that when the Democratic National Convention kicks off next week, CBS News will have special coverage of the events in Chicago starting Monday at 5 p.m. Eastern. My colleague Tony DeCopel will kick off the reporting on CBS Mornings, and Nora O'Donnell will have coverage in the evening. Okay, a new kind of travel is coming to San Bernardino. This morning we're getting a look at the Zimu, which stands for Zero Emission Multiple Unit Passenger Train. Zimu. You get it? Zimu. It's the first of the kind in its country. In this country, at least, CBS News Los Angeles reporter Rick Montanez has a closer look.
The name is cool. The look is cool. We are inside Zimu, checking it out for the first time. And look behind us. I mean, it has some really cool options that other Metrolink trains don't have. We're looking at some luggage racks up here. There's also USB plugs for passengers and bike racks on the inside. I have Tim Watkins, who's with us this morning from the San Bernardino County Transportation Authority. This has been years in the making to get this one-of-a-kind train here, the only one in the country. It's a pretty incredible opportunity.
Years in the making is right. About 10 years really getting this vision to reality. So we're excited that it's here now, do its final testing to get it to the public as soon as we can.
Yeah, so we got to do that final testing to make sure safety and everything is in order. Take us through how this system works, because it's hydrogen fuel cell that powers a battery on this.
Right, so in past trains that we've seen, it's just a diesel engine. Recent trains that we have on the San Bernardino to Redlands line now is a diesel multiple unit, which is a combination of a diesel generator to a battery hybrid. This is a hydrogen fuel cell generated battery hybrid system, only emits water vapor as its byproduct, and so it's a clean option to move people from here to there.
And that is what's represented in your shirt and the paint scheme on the train. Right. An exciting option, and one that really could change the game when we look at transportation on a larger scale.
Sure, it's one of the options being considered for what's the next generation of moving people in a clean way. Electrification's one way, hydrogen fuel cells another consideration. What we like about it, on the Metrolink line, we've already invested billions of dollars into that system. These trains can run on that existing infrastructure.
Okay, so nothing else to build. You just put this train on the tracks and it can go once everything is set up. Tim, we appreciate it. We know that this is something to look forward to, and this one-of-a-kind train here, the only one in the country, and it will be operational soon in San Bernardino County. Back to you.
Okay, let's talk about the first ever Fanatics Fest, which is happening right here in New York City. Sports legends, celebrities, and thousands of fans are expected to attend, and we'll take you there for a preview. You seeing that picture right there? Gronk, Rob Gronkowski is about, yeah, everybody's looking in the studio. Yeah, it's Gronk. He's right there. He's right there. We're going to bring it to you live. You're streaming CBS News 24/7. So you've heard of Comic-Con, you've heard of SneakerCon, BravoCon, but this is all about the pop culture of sports. This, folks, is the first ever Fanatics Fest, which has just kicked off right here in New York City. It features legends from all major sports and some top stars in entertainment. We're talking names like Brady, as in Tom, Manning, as in Peyton and Eli, Durant, as in Kevin, and oh yeah, allow me to reintroduce myself. My name is Hove Jay-Z, right? All right, CBS News New York reporter John Diaz, who you see over my shoulder, is at the Javits Center in New York City, which is expected to attract thousands of fans. John, I mean, I can't rap like Jay-Z, so the real thing, is he gonna be there?
Oh, he's going to be here, Vlad. And let me tell you, I'm not much of a sports fan, but even I think all this is cool. Take a live look right here behind us. We have our first celebrity sighting. We got Rob Gronkowski out here. And Vlad, let me tell you, kids, they were so excited to see him. He just got done running the 40-yard dash with kids. It was adorable to see him interacting with them, getting to know his fans, giving all these autographs. Right now, he is walking away, though. But let me tell you, this is just one of so many different celebrities and athletes who are going to be down here this weekend. Now, doors just opened up about 50 minutes ago, so people, they're slowly making their way into the Jacob Javits Center. But let me tell you, 20,000 tickets, well, they've already been sold. And there's so many interactive exhibits for people to really enjoy. But their favorite players, you can expect their big names out here, a stacked lineup, as we mentioned, Tom Brady, the Manning brothers, Derek Jeter, and even Hulk Hogan. But since this is also, featuring some pop culture, Jay-Z and Ben Stiller, they'll also be out here. And that's really just to name a few. Now, this Fanatics Fest NYC, well, it is brand new. It is a 3-day fan event that is truly just really the ultimate experience for sports fans and collectors of all ages. Oh, there he goes again, Ron. He's literally, all these kids are having so much fun out here. Organizers saying that it is featuring the largest collection of athletes, as you can see, leagues, teams, collectibles, and memorabilia. Not just New York City, but the world has ever seen. Plenty of autograph opportunities, and as you can see live right here, opportunities for kids to meet some of their favorite sports fans. Let me tell you, summer, it is quickly wrapping up, right? School, it is quickly approaching. So this is one of the last really fun summer events I guess you could take your kids to and make it still look good, right? I also, before I let you go, I want to let you know there's a WWE entrance that you can kind of create your own entrance. So I'm going to be going to do that later. But Vlad, what about you? What would your favorite be out here?
Oh, dude, I don't know. That's tough. But there's something very, very cool about coming in like a WWE star, like, pounding your chest and waving your arms. Like, I'm old school. I remember, you guys remember Superfly Snuka?
Right.
Yeah, right. Superfly Snuka. And Kamala, the Ugandan giant. Andre the Giant. I mean, those are all my throwbacks.
Good for you. It really is a fun event. So many smiles going on out here. People of all ages.
Well, so in your next live shot, I need to see you coming out in trunks and high boots and wearing one of those Luce masks. I'm looking forward to that. To tease our viewers, our numbers are going to go through the roof.
I think they got some extras in the back. I'll just go quickly do a Superman change and come on out later for you.
I love it. John Diaz from WCBS. Thank you, John. Appreciate you. All right, let us bring in CBS News Philadelphia meteorologist Tammy Sousa with the final look at the national forecast. Have you ever thought about being a wrestler, Tammy?
You know what? No, I haven't. Sorry. Maybe you.
That's a boy thing, I guess.
But then it looks like. Yeah, I have a 15-year-old, and he's all into that, so we're covered. You know what? Let's talk first about what's going on. Here is the Hurricane Ernesto. It's already a strong Category 2. 1 more mile an hour. If it hits 111 miles an hour, it's a Category 3. It is about 225 miles to the south-southwest of Bermuda. It does look like it will make a direct hit. If not, that storm will be right over the island. The island will be right to the eastern side of it, which could be the worst possible thing, and that will be later tonight and tomorrow. We also have this extreme heat that we're talking about in the heartland. Take a look at this. Temperatures today reaching the triple digits. It will feel like 110, 111, 108 all across the region. Let's go ahead and take a look at what is going on right now in those areas. I want to give you a pretty good idea temperature-wise because we are very warm. We don't have a whole lot in the way of cloud cover in that area either, so it is just the sun beating down on the desert southwest, all in the 80s, upper 80s right now. And this is very early in the morning, so remember that. We got a little ways to climb. It's going to be hot all the way into early next week. Vlad, I'm going to send it back to you.
All right. Tammy, thank you very much. Have a wonderful weekend. Appreciate you. For the first time since a foiled terror plot in Austria, Taylor Swift dazzled thousands of fans in London last night. Check it out. The star brought some extra star power. Ed Sheeran, he surprised fans joining Taylor Swift for an acoustic section featuring a song collabs Everything Has Changed and Endgame. Swift didn't mention the terror plot, but she did thank the 92,000 fearless fans who showed up despite tight security. Love it. I think we got a live shot again of what's going on at there we go. Maybe see a little Gronk again. Gronk's been on our show. He's been on CBS Mornings. He is a big kid. I love the fact that he's interacting with these children. We're going to keep an eye on not that dude's head, but there we go. We want to see what's going on behind him. And we're going to keep an eye out on this incredible festival that is happening right here in New York City where you can meet some of your favorite sports and entertainment stars. Very, very cool. I think Gronk is at the other end. Is he there? There he is. Look at him in the white shirt, shorts, towering over everybody. Gotta love it. We love Gronk here. All right, folks, an encore of CBS Mornings coming up next. This is CBS News 24/7. See you Monday.